Sup Shredders, my name is Logan aka Spiderhands and welcome to an SP Reviews where today we have ourselves a track from an act named Guy Jr. titled Love Me Again. And if we switch over to here we have ourselves a track on the screen on Spotify. Put the album art for you, or the single art should I say, for you right here. And we're going to listen through it from start to finish and we're going to hear what we think. Let's go, let's do it. Oh, pleasant chord at the end.
Love me again, can't just be friends, that's not how it ends. The heart always wins. Can't just be friends, that's not how it ends. The heart always I know I messed up, yeah, I can admit it. I caused you pain cause I wasn't committed. You might forget but you'll never forget it. Your friends should be happy, they're my biggest critics. But you know what I feel about you. I take these scissors, kill Bill about you. I was blessed when we met, like I say, I chew. Line up a million beautiful people, now I bet you I still choose you. This love we're in is so crazy. You were the beat of my Jay-Z. Who knew the one that saved me would be the same person to break me? I lost a lover and friend, so I'ma keep fighting till the end, till we make amends. I can't comprehend, so I'ma keep waiting for the day that you tell me you love me again.
It's just so lush and vibrant and full of really interesting things to pay attention to.
Can't just be friends, that's not how it ends. The heart always wins. Can't just be friends, that's not how it ends. The heart I'm addicted to love. You're my supply, even on cloud 9. You take me higher, got me wildin' out. Like Nick, no Mariah, what's the reason that we here? Like earth, wind, and fire, and it's you I desire. You I invest in, told you all my secrets. You was my best friend, all of a sudden it was my motives that was questioned. I hate feeling lonely, this shit is depressing. I swing from the chandeliers just so you would know that I see a
Great shimmer there to represent the chandelier.
Can we start from scratch like, hey, nice to meet you. Just wanna love you, never mistreat you. I'm a grown man, big enough to admit that I was wrong, man. Living your life like it's golden while my heart is frozen. My love for you is deep like the ocean. I need a spell like you used to love potion, would you? Love me again, can't just be friends, that's not how it ends. The heart always wins. Can't just be friends, that's not how it ends. The heart always You gave up on love, you promised me you never would. How you gonna go and leave? Guess you lied to me, can't get you out of my mind. You promised me you would be mine. I could tell you tried to find a way out. Won't you love me again? Love me again. Can't just be friends, that's not how it ends. The heart always wins. Can't just be friends, that's not how it ends. The heart always wins.
And it's just a really lovely vocal timbre as well. I'm really impressed with this. I think this is my first time, if I'm not mistaken, listening through Guy Jr.'s work, and we're going to talk about it more in the conclusion. Because welcome to the conclusion of my review of this track from an act named Guy Jr. titled Love Me Again. Now, what do I think this track is about? I think it's about someone who's in a relationship with another and they've split up or they've had rocky moments and they are sort of trying to figure out whether they want to get back together. And I think when he talks about the supply and dealer situation, the scenario there, you get the impression that that he really needs this person in their life, almost like it's their oxygen. We have these hook lines that are like the heart always wins, etc. You know, it's not trying to be too sort of like blatantly kind of this is the only option for you, we have to do it like this, because there's like I think an understanding within the track to try and imagine the other person's perspective, but it's also like we're kind of sort of more focusing, especially with the parallel major at the end of that sort of like intro hook progression there, trying to sort of illustrate, hey look, things will be okay, even if it's a bit sad at this point in time. If we get back together, things will improve, it'll work out. And I think that part of what sells me on the story is Guy Jr.'s vocals. There are some lady kind of backing parts and some sort of like ad-libs and like bits on the sides there which are really pretty in a different part of the frequency spectrum than notched neatly on top of whether there is the sort of straight vocals or the rapping parts. But it's just the diversity of different ways of expressing ourselves within this piece that we never stay on for too long. There's this main theme that I think is kind of continued throughout the track musically, this accompaniment. But what I think makes this track special is that focal point. We can not only sing really well, clear head and chest voice, very comfortable within our range there, whether it's here, like we understand not only how to harmonize neatly with a lot of the piano, guitar, bass, synth or drum elements within this piece, as well as a lot of the other kind of more synthetic parts like the actual reverse takes and stuff that I'll talk about in a moment. But it's also just the fact that we can rap and we have a great sort of flow to it, and it's such a contrast to the speed, for example, that we're singing, that it's instantly refreshing, and the post-production is tight, so it just seems like a commercial great performance all around. Ultimately, it's a song where you listen to this and you wonder, okay, could we really have done much more to sort of change or improve this? I don't know what we could have done. There's just so many little bits of interest. There was some cool responses, and again, it just so much is there vocally to appreciate. I feel like it's one of this track's strengths, and I'm glad that we could do all these different styles in a way which was beneficial. Sometimes you try and do too much and it just becomes a little bit kind of overwhelming, or it kind of, one thing is clearly weaker than the other, but we didn't really have that here. I think that the track at like 2 minutes 48 is wonderfully structured as well. It may seem like I'm being overly positive about this, but it's just simply because a lot of this is really, it's really well handled. Like, we have this theme again with the parallel major chord at the end there, which is a little bit sort of like different. Often you'll work within the more traditional, conservative chords and patterns within the bass lines and stuff like that. As I mentioned before, having that turn to the end kind of implies that things are going to get better, and that it's a little bit more happy than you think it is. It's like a twist in the tail. So it's those little things alone that can elevate. But it's also just what we're trying to do, again, with the relative simplicity of the different chords on the right hand, for example, on the keys there, with some octaves that flow really neatly between some of the right hand key parts, as well as the 808s or like sub basses on the other side, on the low end. I feel like they work neatly with each other. And when the bass isn't there, like the bass synth or the actual 808s there, I feel like there's just this kind of airy and kind of fluffy, and it's a nice contrast dynamically, as well as just like compositionally, like that we have peaks and troughs in the intensity, but it's just also, it's not a consistent sort of energy in those areas. We had some really interesting key or guitar or both arpeggios there, which articulated the progressions really neatly in a way that we had them as a sometimes thing. You could clearly hear them in the mix, and they're in that upper range there, niche on top of the bass elements. And I think that the smart thing about that was that because they're on the sides, it gave so much room for any of the vocal components in the centers and mids to sort of have their space as well. Like, just it's difficult to make it this busy, especially in a track where we want the vocals to be the focal point, but to have to sort of like clearly they're not sub-leaves, like these rhythmic elements, but to be in that part of the frequency spectrum there, it just shows an awareness of kind of how far you can push things. Part of me feels like usually I'd be wanting an alternate lead to the vocals, even if they were like a different instrument. But I think here we had that instrumental intro then, which kind of had some interesting sort of like production elements, as well as like there's all sorts of stuff going on here. It's the filtering of parts, the way that things oscillate in and out, like with some of the bass parts that kind of murmur and kind of wave. The reverse takes are super cool, and how they lead into like the piano parts. It's clear understanding of how to transition in a way which isn't as blunt with some of those chords. But I think that it would have been too much to have had, like, for instance, a guitar solo or like a key solo or something like that. I think in this form factor, 2 minutes 48, you've got more than enough to keep you engaged. And yeah, I think that can be the problem if the track is too long, for example, and you don't change the bass line too much or the chord progressions. But because they weren't extended or whatever, it was pleasant to listen to, and you got sucked in by everything else. The drums were great. I appreciate the kind of the sort of the trappiness, the nature of the hi-hats, the kind of like the kicks and snares and stuff. It's a very kind of classy, sophisticated kind of environment, but almost gives a little bit of cadence to some of the R&B-ish kind of elements for the vocal styles. And I feel like there's a fusion of different things here with the rap and hip-hop and like the trap and like the R&B and all that kind of stuff that work very well. And I think that, as well as some of the more synthetic elements, they kind of elevate it and make it a bit more contemporary. And the theme overall, with the understanding, we had that great sort of sense of like groove with like the chord note accents on the kicks with some of the 16th trip, like kind of like hi-hat clicky bits. But also the fact that we didn't have the drums all the time, so things, again, they sounded less consistent, and you had a heaviness in the hook that was making it more sort of perceptible. It's just the theme overall, which I think I've already described several times within this with that major chord, but effectively I think the lack of complicated extensions within the harmonies indicates that even though things might seem like they're tricky, they're actually not that bad, and it just makes it more easy to digest. And I like that insinuation within the music itself. I feel like ultimately it's a track that wants to lean towards the major there, and it's trying to be palatable and catchy and memorable, whilst also trying to tackle some of the heavier stuff in a respectful way. The studio recording, mixing and mastering is tight. No complaints about it whatsoever. It sounds commercial grade. These headphones will tell me if there's a peak in the wrong frequency band, and I don't think we had any issues here as well. It was sounding nice and bright. I imagine this will sound great on most sort of audio systems. I think things are nicely niched within the frequency spectrum. As well as stereo field, like there was also stuff like the guitar and the piano parts and the extra like lady vocals and stuff like that, and how they kind of intertwine and all that. It was great to listen to, very easy. There was dynamic range to this. Things weren't the same loudness the entire time. I think that was both an actual production thing as well as a compositional thing, but it was nice and loud without pumping, so the bus compression and limiting was handled. And just before we finish this video, I also just wanted to mention this score that you've had down here in this area. This is like my kind of song grading thing that I do, and basically this track's got an overall score of 8 out of 10 based on the criteria that I judge these songs on, so that's a solid effort. Well done. And effectively, this is just my review of this track from an act named Guy Jr. titled Love Me Again, and hopefully you enjoyed it. If you did, please show him some love via their various social medias and the Spotify page, and stay cool, stay safe, and please remember to support your local musicians and artists at this point in time, as need the help more than ever with all the crazy stuff going on in the world, and I will catch you in the next review. Spiderhands out.